What's up? My name is Eric Butler. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back, and from the root, arguably the worst race-baiting propaganda outlet on the entire planet, they say, so Netflix thought it was okay to pay Chris Rock $40 million for that anti-black rant. These people can just never get enough. These are the same people that want you to celebrate black culture all the time, and then they get mad when a school serves fried chicken at school or whatever. And look, I get that's maybe sort of a stereotype, as it were, but whatever, bro. You wanted them to celebrate, and then they do something that they think is black, and you don't like that. It's a rock and a hard place because, of course, the game is rigged, and you can't win, right? Chris Rock is a black man, notoriously. For his whole life, he's been black. He's a comedian. He makes jokes about black people. He makes jokes about white people. He makes jokes about everybody because he is a comedian, and they just can't stand that. Why are these people so awful? When will they just give it a rest? You should be happy for a black man who just netted $40 million, right? Even though he sort of raked another black man over the coals, but obviously that other black man sort of deserved it. Not what this is about. They are mad because they say he was anti-black. How is Chris Rock anti-black, right? I mean, he notoriously played Pookie in New Jack City in the late 80s or early 90s or whatever that was. Was it racist then? Was it racist for a black man to be cast as a crackhead then? No, it's only racist now because he has a $40 million Netflix deal at the end of his career. He doesn't have to do that. He's completely rich. He just wanted to get back at Will Smith as far as I'm concerned. And now the root can't handle it, and they're calling it anti-black. Of all people, I mean, there's a handful of black people that, of course, they would like to call anti-black. It would make sense to do that to Kanye West, even though that would be wrong. It would make sense to do that to Candace Owens, even though that would be wrong. It would all be completely wrong, but at least you could sort of see where they're coming from because they don't bow to the establishment narrative at every single point. Chris Rock, for the most part, he's not a conservative. He's not right. He's completely apolitical as far as I'm concerned. And I think from what I heard, I didn't see the entire special, he literally made fun of everybody because that's his job as a comedian. And these people just can't have somebody else being successful. They hate it, right? I mean, what could he possibly have said that was so anti-black? And we saw these old clips of Chris Rock making a joke about, oh, black people are racist because they hate black people. I don't know. I'm going to butcher the joke, obviously. But this is his job. And they just can't stand it. So, yeah, is he a little overpaid? All of these people are completely overpaid. They don't deserve this, but whatever. It is what it is, right? They would be, the root, anybody writing for the root would be so happy to get $40 million, right? But because Chris Rock isn't towing their narrative at every single opportunity, then he's anti-black all of a sudden. As the fallout from Chris Rock's Netflix special, Selective Outrage, continues. Fallout from who? From you? Everybody thought it was funny. I even listened to the radio in the car, and the radio DJs are saying, woo, it was actually pretty funny. I recommend it. Unpaid. They literally, now I don't know. Look, I don't know what kind of payola is going on, but they literally say, I didn't get paid for this, but if you haven't seen it, it was pretty funny. Nobody is mad about this. There is no fallout. It's just you. The discourse makes more and more interesting turns. Celebrities are embroiled over differing opinions. Having a different opinion makes you embroiled, right? And they're saying the quiet part out loud again. So you having a different opinion from me is controversial. You can't just say, agree to disagree, move on. No, that won't work. Because what these people do is they hollow out the middle. There is no middle ground. It's only you versus me. If you're not with me, you're an extremist. It's the exact same thing that we see that the politicians are trying to do with the middle class, especially in New York and California. There is no middle class. There's only junkies shooting up under the bridge, or self-vaccinating, should I say, and then political and media elites living up in, condos and townhouses. There's nothing in between. It's the same thing with these arguments, right? There is no, maybe we can meet in the middle. No, it's just my extreme. Of course, mine is not extreme. Mine is completely normal. Of course, a little boy can become a little girl. That's not extreme. If you don't like that, you're extreme. But I've gotten off track once again. Moving on. Over whether words are just jokes or if comedians should be held accountable for what they say. Well, he's a comedian. His job is to make jokes. Of course, they're just jokes, right? If it were a serious dissertation, then he might go on a TED Talk or something. He's a comedian. What are you missing about this? We saw the same kind of dialogue swirling following Dave Chappelle's 2021 special, The Closer, which was deemed controversial by you, right? almost immediately due to his insensitive words about trans people. And seeing as conservatives are literally working to get rid of that extremely vulnerable population, we need to acknowledge that words have influence and power. Yeah, so your words do, right? Their words don't. When Hillary Clinton says we can't be civil, that doesn't matter. When Maxine Waters says get up in their face if you see somebody from that cabinet, that doesn't matter. When Andrew Cuomo says if you don't wear a mask, then you want my grandma to die, and it's all about respect, that doesn't matter. I mean, they're literally driving a wedge. I mean, it's clear as day, right? Everything they're doing is projection. So everything they say you're doing is what they're doing, I should say, if that makes sense, right? It should, because everybody knows, everybody sees it. I always say everybody, but it's definitely not everybody, unfortunately, because if it were everybody, then we wouldn't really be in this problem. A 2016 report from The Hollywood Reporter showed that selective outrage was part of a $40 million deal he made with Netflix. It called for 2 separate stand-up specials. In addition, it comes 5 years after Rock's first Netflix comedy show entitled Chris Rock Tambourine. I didn't see that one either, but I'm sure it wasn't anti-black. Right? This is only going to make it more popular, right? Like, do you really think somebody's going to see this and say, I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription? No, they're just going to be like, oh, let me see what he's talking about. These people are morons. Or maybe this is the conspiracy. Maybe Chris Rock put them up to this to make sure that it gets some buzz and get some clicks because all publicity is good publicity, right? Maybe, but probably not. These people are just completely out of touch with reality. And shout out these moving ads everywhere, making this almost impossible to read. Jack Daniels and Taco Bell's disgusting. So the streaming giant paid him that much money to make colorism jokes, repeatedly call black people out of their names, especially black women. Oh, okay. Okay, so when a black... Wow, these people don't see it. This is worse than that Bakari Sellers article about Ron DeSantis. This is worse than that, right? Because Bakari Sellers said that Ron DeSantis was using race as a political cudgel or using race as political currency. And I'm like, are you serious? That's exactly what they do at every single chance they get. And now he's saying that Chris Rock is calling black people out of their name. Meanwhile, every single rap song in the world, it gets repeated over and over again, and they love it, right? I mean, notoriously, YG made his FDT song. YG came out on a song called My Nigga. Remember that? Every word. And nobody cared then. Now, he did get a little pushback from the Asian community for Meet the Flockers, but I digress. Different story. And say that liberals have gone too far when it comes to fighting for equality and inclusion. If a non-black comedian used the same material, deplatforming them wouldn't even be a question. Rock should be held to the same. So now they want to cancel Chris Rock. Now they want to treat a black man, right? A famous black comedian as a white man because he didn't toe the party line for them in this particular situation and said that liberals have gone too far, which I say constantly, right? Because everything they do might stem from a tiny little grain of truth, a tiny little bit of, okay, maybe that makes sense. There's an argument there to be had. I'm not saying it's correct, but you could see where it stems from, right? But then they just bastardize. They mutilate. They drive this stuff all over the cliff. And that's what he's saying, is that they've taken it too far. They've gone too far. You got to stop. You got to pump the brakes and make a U-turn, go back into sanity. But they won't. They'll never stop. When he ended last weekend's set, which was the first live stream event in the history of Netflix, I did not know that. So shout out to The Root for that little gem. He said that the reason he didn't hit Will Smith back after he joked about Jada Pinkett Smith is because he was raised not to fight in front of white people. Okay. All right. But as many people pointed out on social media, he deems it acceptable to humiliate black women in front of white people. It was a joke. He's a comedian. Jokes and fighting are not the same, right? They always want you to think that words are violence, and it's just not. Those are two different words. They have two different definitions, but this is what they do, is they manipulate the words, they manipulate the language, and turn it into their weirdo, democratic, dystopian doublespeak euphemisms that I'm constantly screaming about. Ultimately, Rock and the places that air his humor need to be called out. One user on TikTok eloquently noted how disturbing it is that Rock believes it is okay to make fun of black. To make fun. It's a joke. He's a comedian. That's what he's supposed to do. That's why he got paid $40 million, and you're not, because you're not good at it. And I don't know, maybe Chris Rock's not funny. I didn't watch it. I'll watch it. Maybe it wasn't funny, but even so, there's no way on God's green earth you're going to convince me that Chris Rock is anti-black. It's just not going to happen. Specifically, black sick women. Okay, so they're playing the alopecia card. So Will Smith can go up there, and so they're justifying this violence, right? A comedian makes a joke about a woman and is retaliated with violence, and the comedian is in the wrong. This is how outside of reality these weirdo race baiting extremists are. None of this makes any sense. Rock believes it is okay to make fun of black people, specifically black women, specifically black sick women, in front of white people. And the Oscars co-signed it, and celebrities co-signed it, and a lot of y'all are co-signing it. Okay, so it's not okay to co-sign a comedian making a joke, but it is okay to co-sign another comedian, actor, slapping that comedian for doing his job. Insanity. However, despite the criticism and backlash Chappelle received, he has gone on to win several awards, including a Grammy for The Closer and host Saturday Night Live. We are aware that Rock probably won't face any consequences for what he has said, but it's wrong to stay silent about its impact. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, imagine getting to the point where a black publication is mad at Chris Rock for being anti-black and collecting $40 million from it when they should be happy for this guy, right? He was the butt of a joke. Actually, he wasn't the butt of the joke. Will Smith was really the butt of the joke, and then he became the butt of the joke again when Chris Rock raked him over the coals. But doesn't matter. This is about how terrible, well, this is about Chris Rock and Will Smith a little bit, but this is more about the root and how terrible their race baiting is. They literally want people to believe that Chris Rock, notorious crackhead from 1989 or whatever it was, is anti-black somehow because he made a joke on a Netflix special. So these people are completely out of touch with reality, and it's actually really sad. And if they're not out of touch with reality, that's worse, because that means they are just manipulative and conniving, and both are really quite likely. I'm not sure which one's true. However, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe.